Hello, and welcome to another episode of Friday with the Chakontas. I am Mr. Chakonta,
And I'm Mrs. Chakonta.
and we are back with our series on FWTC Reacts.
Uh-huh.
And so we have another situation that we're going to react to.
Yes, I will.
Yeah, go
You
ahead.
ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So this reads, this person has written, I'm 28, just graduated and recently ended a 3-year relationship with my man. All was good for some time until we started talking about our views on sex before marriage. I told him that I wanted to wait until I was married to have any intimacy of any kind. He told me that most men sleep with their partners as long as that is the person they have chosen and they will end up together in marriage, and that he needed to feel close to the person that he is in a relationship with. I stood my grounds. Then he told me that he respects my views, so he feels our relationship would not work. I confided in my mother over the situation, and she said I should listen to the man, and she jokingly said to me that if I remained closed up, I would end up alone. She said that it is rare to find a man that will wait until marriage to have sex. My mother also thinks I will be missing out on a good man for me if I do not start opening up intimately with these men before marriage. I'm confused and don't know what to do. I have mixed feelings. I fear that I might end up alone if I don't change my views. I'm asking for the impossible, or are my standards... Am I asking for the impossible, or are my standards too high? Please help.
Our standards are too high. I'm playing.
I knew you would say that. Let the truth come out, Pastor Toomey.
I'm just joking. To be honest, I don't even know where to start, because seems as if from the stories we keep on getting, it's like there's a lot of influence from parents,
Yeah.
which comes from a side of where these people are supposed to be looking at your best interest, but they are giving advice that is very questionable. But again, I'm just trying to, off the top of my head, I'm just like, is there maybe a naivety for us who are growing up, for us not understanding maybe the complex nature of what our parents went through, to the point of where some of these things for us is black and white, but for them there's a gray area.
I see what you're saying, but I don't think it's a parent thing. I think it's maybe a Christian thing, although I feel like our standards as Christians have dropped.
No, but okay, we're assuming the assumption here is
that's true. They might not be Christians, right?
Not be Christians.
But I think it's but the reason for sex before marriage, that comes from the Christian belief. So let's assume she's a Christian, because if we now assume she's not a Christian, then our advice is just not going to make sense, because our advice is based on Christianity.
Yeah, but I'm thinking if she's a Christian, maybe her parents are not believers.
But they might be believers, but I think there's a naivety. There might be a naivety in a sense of, I think there are a lot of believers, a lot of Christians out there who are having sex before marriage.
Okay.
And I think that is actually a real thing. A lot of people say, and I think that might be the element where I was saying I think there might be naivety, not just because of not our parents, but just one of those things where we're taught at church, we know is right and we know what is right and wrong, but what we actually practice is very different. And I think there's definitely a huge disparity between Christians, people who say they're Christians, and then if you had to take a consensus, an anonymous survey, I think we would be shocked at the amount of Christians who have numbed. I don't know what the word is. I can't find the right word, but who are basically it's not a struggle to be having sex before marriage. There's a difference between you're doing it and you're struggling, and you're just comfortably doing it.
But don't you think it's based also on the culture we live in the sense of when something becomes normalized and it becomes a norm,
that's it.
The urgency of it becomes, what's the word?
Like it's watered down.
Yeah, it's watered down. Maybe in other cultures and other generations, maybe this was frowned upon, but now this side is like everybody's talking
Things have
about
changed. Things have changed to the point that it's happening. I agree.
what we're watching on TV is telling us something else, and then based on that, those influences that we have is just like everybody's doing it. I'm seeing it on TV. I'm seeing it on.
What's so special about it?
What's so special about it? And like the beauty of it has been lost.
Absolutely.
To the point of where now, in this situation, this guy is basically trying to, what they call this issue of test drive before you buy
Try on
the car.
a pair of shoes before you wear them.
And I think that's the culture we live in.
People are like you. They'll even give you an equivalent example of, would you buy a pair of shoes before you try them on? And most of us would not buy a pair of shoes before we try them on.
And that's now the issue. Now that's what sex is.
It's
valued
just one
as.
of those things.
Yeah, and I think that's wrong. If people are looking at it from that angle.
Yeah.
Because when they look at it that angle, they just mainly look at it as we can only enjoy it in the aspect of, if we try it, then we can understand if we're compatible with one another.
Yeah.
And the compatibility is based on
whether we have good sex life.
Yes. And also the other side of where it's like, it becomes very idolatrous of, I want to feel something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of it being an aspect of an experience that you both have and learn each other as
in that time.
And
when you're married.
And you get to learn more and more about each other.
Yeah.
But now it becomes more of just the action of, I need to basically be satisfied.
Yeah.
And satisfaction is only based on me. And not satisfaction for both of us in this glorious thing that God has designed for us.
Yeah.
And I think that's the narrative that's being painted in culture. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think the funny thing, babe, I know, I don't have the stats, but I think there are a lot of mothers who would give the same advice.
Are you talking about African mothers?
I suppose maybe. I don't know. Whether it's African, whether it's none. I don't know. I haven't really imagined. I guess because this story, we've picked it from an African background or like an African
context.
Yeah, context. So we are or the African country. So we're assuming that they're African, but not necessarily. But I do feel like there's that narrative of, you will, like, just give him some, otherwise you're gonna miss out on a good guy. Like, why are you not giving it up?
Yeah,
I love it.
And that's sad, especially like now, if you're going to value, because I think maybe from the cultures we come, it's like marriage is something that is, what's the word? We value marriage, especially we see that even our parents and our grandparents value marriage in the context of, if you've married one, it means so many things. It means one, that okay, you're gonna start a family, you're gonna be a joyful thing, or it means some other people is also, it means you're now inviting somebody into this family. And if you're inviting somebody into this family who's wealthy, that wealth can also extend to us. So there are also selfish gains of why people are encouraging their children to get married. And to even stay in relationships that are not even conducive for them. Because I think I was watching a movie on Netflix where like a woman was being abused by her husband, but because like this husband, it was a Nigerian movie, and like not husband, fiance, and like he'll beat her up and everything like that. So then they were at the engagement party, and then he beat her up again. So then she went to tell the mother. It's like, oh, he always beats me. He said he would stop, but he always beats me. And the mother is like, but your father's already made a deal for the family. His family business is going to be now wealthy because of this union. So are you going to now do something just to basically jeopardize your family business? So she had to think about that. And I think the whole situation is like, he tried to beat her up. The story is that he tried to beat her up again. Then a friend and her came
Oh,
together.
they ended up killing
They
her.
ended up
Oh,
killing
that
him.
one. Yes, I remember it.
They ended up killing him, and then that's the whole narrative of the story.
Ah, yeah, I remember.
So something like that.
I remember that.
So,
but it's true. What you're saying.
That's just an aside.
Side note.
An aside, yeah. And so we see that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even when we see it through a movie stance, we just think, oh, this is just a movie. But we actually see
they do happen in real life.
in real life where this is actually being encouraged. And people are basically looking. And I think the girl child is, especially the African girl child, is very at risk because it seems as if every time narrative of you need, it's like this is the conversation that always starts. Stay away from boys. Stay away from boys. After
Where's
some
your
time,
husband?
then after some time, in fact, when you graduate, immediately you graduate, people feel,
married.
when are you going to get married?
Yeah.
Why? And then after some time, it will be, why aren't you getting married? All your friends are getting married and everything like that. So that
and get married. When are the kids?
Yeah.
First one, second one.
And it becomes more of the teaching aspect of the value yourself. This is your worth. Know what you're bringing to the table. Know, especially from a biblical perspective, know that one, you need to first find somebody who's godly, and ultimately, secondly, you also have to value yourself in the context of seeing your relationship with God. Those conversations, I don't know, different households do them, but I don't think on a general population, it's like we don't hear those conversations.
No,
and it's very rare. I know that some people who do that, but it's very rare for people to just give especially the girl child, encouragement and trying to say that the time will come.
Yeah.
And in the right time, in God's timing, these things will come to pass.
Exactly. And you start to have this pressure. And the thing is, I think you did mention before, like, you know, our family should have their best interest, like our best interest at heart. And I think this woman, the mother, is actually giving advice that she feels that is best.
Yeah.
I don't actually think she's giving advice knowingly. I think she's looking at what is happening to society. And as a result, I think society and the pressures and the way things have changed, we're now falling under the pressures of society. And let's say, you know, we're assuming they're Christians, right? And then let's say as Christians now we're feeling that pressure and not realizing that we have a higher we have a higher calling, we have a higher power, we have somebody who is in control of our lives. Like, we don't need to worry because, you know, just because, yes, it's hard out there to find a good Christian guy. A Christian, it's let alone, you know, find a Christian guy, fine, they're hard, right? Then you find them. Then now you have to actually find the Christian guy who is willing not to engage in any sexual intimacy before marriage. So again, you're filtering even more. So it's even harder. And so these pressures are real. So even for this mom, because I've heard Christians say this, you know, or they've asked questions assuming that you guys are already having sex. And it's like the idea of people not having sex before marriage is almost like it's a known thing that people are having sex before marriage. So let's just move on to the next topic of conversation. So I do feel like this mom might actually be thinking that she's giving the best advice, and in the current pressures, I think it's also pressure for the mom, because she's probably looked at this guy and thought he is a good guy, and not pressure for her per se, but how do you advise your child when you can see that in this world good men are hard to find? Good Christian men are becoming harder and harder to find. So how do you now advise your child? And I think it's staying true to the word of God and trusting God that at the right appointed time, like you said, babe, the right man, who meets your standards. And these are not like these are not even your standards. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. These standards, you know, we're like, are your standards too high? They're not your standards, girl. So well done to you for upholding the standards that we're supposed to live by as Christians.
Yeah.
Because and it's not about your standard, it's about God's standard. That's the standard that's been set out for us as Christians.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and it's not going to be easy, but it's not impossible either. God has not set a standard that you cannot achieve. This standard is attainable with his help. And the fact that, it's been a 3-year relationship and you've been able to refrain from doing something or anything, because it's one thing, us talking about no sex before marriage. And sometimes we feel like, yeah, we did it. We didn't have sex before marriage, but you did everything else. And now you feel like just because you don't have, I need to watch my language because my husband is just going to look at me like, Rita, you're there again using your words. No, babe, can I just talk freely?
About what?
Because I'm just like, people think that just because they did not have penetrative sex, they didn't. It's a, you've achieved. You've not had sex before marriage.
No, I agree with what you're saying.
I love the fact that in her statement at the top, she was like, I told him I wanted to wait until I was married to have any intimacy of any kind. And I'm assuming this, she means, physical intimacy, really things that are even emotional intimacy. There's certain levels,
Yeah.
So that, you could be reaching that are, quite dangerous and therefore can lead to sexual sin.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. So things like, touching, like you're there like, yeah, but we haven't had sex, but it's a lot. So I commend her. I just want to say there's not a lot of, what do you mean?
I agree with what you're saying.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Let me finish.
Okay.
I commend her because I feel like you have a man who you like, you have a mother who's giving you a certain advice, and then you've still, because it appears as if this relationship is still not, you've still ended it. It's still been, not you ended it, I think he ended it, but it's still ended, but you're just questioning the aftermath. So you haven't gone back to him. So I'm just like, I commend that, being in a relationship where you have not gone out in that way. I really do. And to be able to not say, my mom said this, and so, okay, you know what, my mom knows what she's talking about. No, I feel like something in you has said, well, my mom has said this, but I don't agree. Let me ask advice. And so you've now brought this advice to other people. So honestly, I really do commend that. The only thing that I think you might be trying to reach to, babe, I don't know if that's what you were trying to get to, is the 3-year dating.
Yeah.
Was that what you were saying? You don't?
Yeah. I don't think
not
it's
that
wise.
There's nothing wrong. If it was 3 years, it's fine. But I think this is where you also see the guy.
No.
Because he could have.
I think you're not seeing it from other people's points. If she's not ready to be intimate or not ready to get married, there's no point of her entertaining actual relationships, because there's also another side, I think, maybe on the female side, that she doesn't understand, that this emotional investment that somebody's putting in for 3 years, he's developing an aspect of where he feels that he needs a return for that. And for her, if her stance from the beginning.
So you guys, when you put investment in us, the return is sexual.
No, I agree, but ideally, I'm just trying to say.
No, be honest, babe. Be honest.
As a married man,
Yeah, be honest.
I'll tell you that, look, we've seen our situations where, like, you would want certain things where, like, you are very emotional. You want certain things that very lovey-dovey to do.
Yes.
And I may be physical.
Yes.
In a particular way. And all that stuff. So for us to be balanced and all that stuff, especially in the context of our marriage, we have to understand each other.
Yeah.
In the context of this situation, she may be, I'm assuming, in those 3 years, he may be doing all those nice lovey-dovey things for her.
But he's not getting anything back.
Buying her flowers, taking her out to movies, doing all these things. And then I'm just like, then he is now feeling comfortable. Comfortable. And then he's just like, I've got this age in me, and why aren't we doing ABCD? So it feels like you're getting all the perks and I'm not. Okay. And then I'm saying from the beginning, if you are not ready to do that, don't also receive whatever you feel like you've been receiving in those 3 years, because it looks one-sided. So she shouldn't be ready to date at all.
No, but the thing is, she didn't say, babe. She didn't say she's not ready to get married. He hasn't asked.
That what?
She didn't say she's not ready to get married. She said, I am waiting to get married. So the problem we have here is, what conversations have you had about marriage?
But the question
Unless
is, in
he
3
has-
years,
No,
in
that's my
3
point.
years, you won't be able to understand that, and
No.
you're still going on.
No, but what I mean, baby, it's almost like you're saying that the way you're phrasing it is like she's saying, no, I'm not ready to get married. I'm
No.
saying in this, we don't know what conversations they've had. So that's the problem. The problem is, maybe it would be, I would agree with you entirely if it's been 3 years and he's now saying, I want to get married to you. She's saying she's not ready.
Yeah.
Then it's very unfair because, like you said, he's investing, he's giving. He's like, I need something back. I'm a man, I got needs.
I agree with that, but I'm also
if they
saying on her part,
if he hasn't asked the question, then he's the problem also.
But for also her side, why would you wait for 3 years and entertain a relationship where you're seeing there is no direction? And let's be honest
True.
here. Let's be honest here. A girl child, especially coming from us, they'll tell her from where she comes from.
Yeah.
You cannot get married until you finish school.
So
she's just graduated.
They've just graduated, so that means they're ready. They can get married.
But my question to her is: in that 3 years, you've entertained so many things. You should have waited until you graduated to start entertaining those relationships with a specific view. I am dating to get married.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Let's say, well, I get what you're saying. Mm-hmm. You're dating to get married. Okay, I agree with you. But the thing is, that means they're both a problem because you're saying I'm like, he's also a problem because why is he breaking up with her and not saying, then I will marry you?
No, I agree with you.
Because if he said, her point is, I don't want to do this until I'm married, then his next point is, well, let's set a date.
Yeah. No, but
why break up with her?
No, because I'm just saying the value of what she's also, I think maybe her value of this man will also need to question. Because I'm saying in the 3 years, haven't you seen what this man values? For you to basically make a decision and say, I am not ready to get married towards this, is also your value on the system is, I'm not having sex and whoever respects me can have a conversation with me. What other conversations are you having for you to analyze that this man is worth 3 years of your time?
What do you mean? Explain
3 years of your time to basically say, do we have the same values? Do we think the same way? Because if he's now coming and basically saying he wants to test drive something before he wants this, then you've got your value system is off.
Oh, I see what you. Then he's not the right guy.
Yes.
Then he's not the right guy because he shouldn't be saying let's test it first. He should be saying, okay, let me marry you.
Yes, but my question is, why did she entertain it for 3 years?
But the point is, okay, that's a good point. The question is, did he wait the whole 3 years then? Because maybe he did. And he's just like, I can't wait anymore. Because, babe, let's be honest. How long did it take for us to get married?
About a year or something.
When I remember, you might need to cut this one out. I remember I was like, there was a time I was trying to push our wedding. I was like, oh, but babe, maybe we can get married next year. You're like, why?
No,
why?
Because I was being honest and trying to say, what is the reason for?
Why?
Look, we are in a
I was like, yeah, but we can save more money. It's like, no. It's not about the money. We don't need the money, so we can save more money to do what? No,
but I also we have to be honest here and basically say, like, look, there was no point of us extending our engagement or our courtship season when we already knew. The only thing that was probably waiting was for you to finish school. And I'm like, look, why are we waiting? And why are we waiting in the sense of where now in our pursuit of waiting to get financially stable, get A, B, C, D, and then we are compromising ourselves and we are going to cause each other to sin because we'll be in each other's vicinity a lot. And especially that we've already committed with our hearts. But the only other side where we're waiting for other things to fall into place. That is very dangerous. And this is now where people are now like, okay, we've already committed with our hearts.
No, you're right. You're right.
We've
because
already done A, B, C, D. So
marriage doesn't cost a lot of money.
I know.
The money that I was saying at the time was for luxurious stuff. It wasn't stuff that was needed for us to get married.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
So I think it's, on that sense, is not also understanding, especially as look, me and you before we were married were brothers and sisters in Christ. you're not understanding your brother in Christ.
You were suffering.
No, it's not like I was suffering. I'm just saying that I invested my heart. And when I invested my heart, I felt like I'm in a vulnerable position. And in that vulnerable position, it can be very easy for me to compromise.
Yeah.
And this is why it's best for us now to just say, look, as scripture tells us, if you are weak, get married. And this is the only context where it is acceptable. Sex before marriage or whatever you guys are doing is not acceptable before marriage. And this is why I'm saying for the ones who are weak, the access is get married and experience these things in marriage.
Yeah, so I agree. It doesn't make sense why they've been dating for 3 years and the conversation, it's ended because she's refusing to have sex before marriage, but you haven't given us any more about what that conversation about marriage has been. If there's no conversation about marriage or he's not sure, it's another red flag. The fact that he's left the relationship because you don't want to have sex before marriage is a red flag. Go, you've got, I know, that's the thing. Ending a 3-year relationship is going to break the heart. So you're going to have to go through breakup emotions. You're going to have to now detach yourself. 3 years of wiling yourself, almost talking to somebody almost every day. Your brain cells, your mind, it's glued to this person. And the kind of relationship you have when it's a boyfriend and girlfriend is very different to friends. It takes time now it took 3 years to cultivate that. Now it's not going to just be, you're not just going to break up and be happy just like that. Even the relationships where people have been in very difficult relationships or even abusive relationships or whatever type of relationship they were in, it just doesn't end there, or it's very rare that it just ends and that's it. No, it still requires a process of unwinding those wires, the way you used to think, the way you thought about this person and your future, your kids, especially as women, we've already planned our kids, where we're going to live, our kids' names, all of that. So this is going to be a very difficult season for you. But two things is, what is the conversation you've had on marriage and the fact that he is willing to compromise on the word of God? You know. And that's the thing. When you start compromising like this, you already see certain, these are things that help you to see what this person might be like. What other things are they willing to compromise on? How is their self-control? What is going on? If someone is going to end a relationship with you based on that, they've done you, as much as it does not feel like it, they've done you a favor, because as a child of God, that's not someone you want to be with.
Yeah, I agree. But I feel like she also needs to take responsibility.
Yes, I agree with you. I think that's what you were what you were saying about the 3 years. Yes. You need to own up. Like, how will you be dating a guy for 3 years and it shouldn't be a surprise that maybe he's been asking all this time or this, I don't know, but it shouldn't be a surprise. And I think 3 years is a long time to be dating with no conversation about when marriage is. Yeah. And if that...
And your feelings, because maybe we're also assuming right now that her feelings has always been the same from the beginning.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Because maybe she might have changed her mind.
Maybe she had changed her mind or something.
Or
like
she became born again during the relationship. Like loads of things happen.
And all that stuff. And then because of that, now it just shows that, look, you're not yoked together.
No. And your standards are not too high.
Yeah.
The problem is the world has lowered the standards. So we feel like the average, the baseline now feels so high because we have dropped levels every year. The levels just keep dropping and dropping. So every year in society, we seem so far away from the baseline that every year you feel like the standards are higher. Like, take this 10 years ago. Like, it was not as low as things are right now. The way people view sex before marriage. Take it back 50 years ago. It was not as low. Take it back 100 years ago. So we are just moving further, far away from the baseline that every year it feels, or every decade, it feels like the standards are too high. And then people are now saying your standards are too high. No, that's the bare minimum.
Yeah. And also on the other side, I think maybe also another caution for ladies.
Yes.
Ladies, whenever you're basically being challenged to compromise your values, Those are things, and I think you need to think about it from a logical perspective. There'll be some guy who basically will test drive, and because he's test drive, he's got an option to basically say yes or no, and he can leave. But you are the one who now needs to pick up those pieces, and God forbid you actually now also get pregnant.
Yeah.
So what now happens? And this guy is basically said, at least me have test drive.
I don't like it. First of all, I've checked it, and I don't. So he wants to check
And
to
I'm
see
saying
if you're
you
if you're emotionally compatible. So what if you've had sex and he's like, no, I don't think we're sexually compatible.
And because of that, there is the girls. I think girls forget. To be honest, girls have got a lot of power in relationships. Your no should be no, and if somebody cannot respect your no, be ready to walk away. Because once you start to compromise on these things, you are the one who is at risk. You're the one who's going to carry that baby. You're the one who are in an aspect of where that guy can just basically leave and go a different way. And you may be feeling, maybe I'll do this to keep him. Maybe, and it's now building a precedent of saying, like what her mother is basically encouraging and saying, he's a good man. You would just do this and you'll keep him. The next time it will be something else. Just do A, B, C, D. You'll keep him. You'll now have a bad habit in the marriage of where he's trying to go and do other things outside the marriage. Then they'll be saying, because the criteria that the family has now accepted him is because he's a good guy on the basis of maybe financial or whatever. They ask this, and not a good guy on the spiritual side. This is what they value more. And then they'll be always compromising. And then you'll be the one in the situation of being in pain and living in a home where you feel that you've compromised so much, and to the point of what has been given to you. And just like I'm saying on the side of where you're saying that you've got the right to make a decision, there's also the other side. You also, especially believers, if you're a woman who's a believer, if you're not ready to commit, be honest with yourself and basically say, you know what, right now I'm not ready to get married. I need to do A, B, C, D. And because of that, I think the best thing is, I don't think we can have the conversation of us dating at the moment.
Yeah.
And we know us guys will be persistent and everything like that. And if your values are strong, just tell them, no, I'm not ready at the moment. Maybe we can talk about this thing in another time.
Yeah.
And I know people will just look, that girl is hard or something like that. I'd rather a girl be labeled hard than somebody next thing they'll be saying she's easy.
Yep.
And everybody will be just talking about you around the circles in the circles that you guys have.
Yep.
So be principled. And I think the person who basically is a principled man, he will understand your values, and will, based on those values, you actually accept, okay, no, for me to get now this person as my person, I need to be able to now step into that position and accept that I need to take her as my wife and commit to her alone. And that is what the concept of marriage is. You both are making commitments. So don't be somebody who's selfish, take 3 years, get whatever you want on the emotional side, and then be surprised when somebody's saying, I want an investment back. Because it's and I'm not saying it's fair, to be honest. I'm not saying it is, but some people look at it that way.
Yeah.
Because they're saying, we've been doing ABCD in the 3 years. Aren't you happy? Aren't you doing ABCD? So what are we doing here? Or something like that. And I think when you do those things, it's basically trying to say, I'm happy because I'm getting flowers every day.
Yeah.
I can post whatever we're doing and all those things. The only thing I'm not doing is watch this, but you're emotionally invested. And because you're emotionally invested, because even when the breakup goes, it also shows you have to now go through the heartbreak and everything like that because of the emotional investment that you put into that relationship. And those are the things that you struggle with in that season. And again, we also need to understand relationships is just not sex. And I think that's what some people always say. Some people always think because we are compatible in this situation. Sometimes we're like, everything is so toxic. And because they've got ideally a good sex life, they wash away all those other things.
Yeah.
And though that is bad. And I think the concept of marriage, especially biblical marriage, is all the seasons that we go through.
Yeah.
There will be seasons where this will be something that is done constantly, and there'll be seasons where it won't be. As you grow older, certain things will change. So what happens?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think because we're in a very sexualized society, it becomes, because I'm not getting this, I need to go and find it somewhere else.
Something's missing in the relationship.
Yeah, and I need to go and find it somewhere else. And that is the bad habit that has crept into society.
Yep.
And this is why it's also cheapened something that God created for the good of mankind to enjoy and also procreate. But now it's now become an issue where it's so cheapened to the point of it's just enjoyment.
Yeah.
To the point of even we know it results to procreation. When people are now making decisions, when something like comes, they'll just when a baby comes, now they're not ready. But they've been enjoying this. Enjoyment leads to something.
Exactly.
And that something now, the world has also found ways of how to deal with that something that comes. And those are certain things because of the sin that has engulfed in this world. And because we've cheapened something, the glory of something for something lesser, this is what we now live. This is how we live in this world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well said, Mr. Chakontas.
So yeah, so in this situation, anything you want to add?
No. What advice? I think what you've done is a good thing. Take time out, pray about it.
Yeah.
Gain, perspective, wisdom, and speak to other maybe Christians in your church, such as your pastors, or your elders, so that you don't feel like you're the only one who is making this decision. Like you don't feel like, oh, my boyfriend and my mom, these are two people who I'm close to, and they think this way. Maybe I'm wrong. So you can just gain some perspective on, or reminder on what is right, and that sounds right. Because it's not going against the word of God. So so well done on having that view, because not many women these days have it, even when we say we're Christians. So just well done, and know that God will guide you
and help you. And also another thing, just a caution for mothers: don't cheapen your daughters that way, please. Especially people who are believers.
Yep.
Don't cheapen your daughters in a position of where you're so desperate for them to get married to the point of where you even compromise certain things of your faith.
Yep.
And just basically
worrying about their age because he's 28. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's true. Start worrying for them, worrying about when they're gonna have. God is the one who gives children. So, sometimes the rush of saying I need to get married because my eggs are going. You start making decisions that are not in line with what God had planned for you.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, that's it
so
from
yeah,
me.
that's it from us, and I think we this is one of probably the most debated debate we've had from both sides. Yeah,
Is it?
Have we agreed on everything?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
We were like, but I think overall we agreed.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we came to an agreement, and yeah, so hopefully that our thoughts on this situation, our react, is something that has brought a sense of wisdom. And if you have anything to add on, we just ask to add in the comment section, like, subscribe, and
share.
And yeah, so thank you very much. Until next time, take care and God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye.